Welcome to Postpartum.
I was thinking recently about the concept of asking questions, and I was kind of in like this reflective period yesterday, and I was thinking about how my mode of understanding things is asking questions. Like, you both have experienced that. I've asked questions, and I was kind of processing this with my husband Phil, that I think over my lifetime, people think that because I ask questions that I'm incapable. And I'm not saying that that's what you guys think. I just have had a lot of experiences where I have friends say things, like when I was younger, like in high school, say things, like I tell them I'm doing something and then they give me advice about it. And I'm like, I wasn't actually asking your advice or your permission or anything. And I was like, why do they do that? And so we got talking about it and how, like, maybe they've interpreted my question asking as like that I can't make a decision. So I explained to Phil that that's not accurate for me. I ask questions to gain information. That's just how I work. Like, I'm actually trying to do the opposite of being ignorant. I'm trying to become not ignorant by asking questions. And we thought, what an interesting, like, I don't know what the word is, paradigm or something, that like we encourage children to ask questions. We don't think kids are incompetent, at least generally, when they're asking questions, right? But then, like, if an adult asks too many questions, what does that convey? And I don't know that it conveys that for everybody, but that's kind of the vibe that I've gotten or I've picked up on, and it made me, frankly, really frustrated because I thought, man, what am I, they tell you that you tell people how to treat you by how you act. And I thought, oh my gosh, this like mode of operation might have been telling people something that I wasn't intending, but that's not what I was thinking, because going through college and things like that, I made all the decisions for my major all on my own. I didn't have any encouragement from my family on what major to go into. I had to ask the questions to find out the information that I wanted to. And so I think it's interesting how, like, now that I'm reflecting on this whole idea of asking questions, I wonder how many adults don't ask questions, or they have to pretend that they know the answers because they don't want to be perceived as ignorant. I don't know what you guys think, and I'd love to hear your thoughts if you have any. And I don't know that we consciously think that about people, but I just wonder if other people maybe worry about that, and so they suffer in silence, or they might feel comfortable asking their doctor or asking the internet, but they don't ask people maybe they feel close to because they don't know how they'll be perceived. So that was kind of an interesting realization to me. Sort of frustrating, but at the same time enlightening, because I hope that other parents don't feel that way, and maybe, hopefully, I'm the only one that does.
I think that's interesting because in my experience with not having kids for so long, being married for 10 years without having any kids, I have met a lot of moms and a lot of parents who have had experiences, and we do learn from our experiences and we gain knowledge from those, but that doesn't mean that we know everything. But I've met so many people who act as though they do. Act as though, oh, I've been through this one experience and I experienced it this way, so that is the way that it is. And they don't ask any more questions, or they don't ask for other people's experiences. And that's where you get a lot of unwanted advice, I think, when you're going through pregnancy and when you're going through parenthood, and people are like, oh, don't do it this way, do it this way, or whatever, because that's the way that they did it, or that's the way that they learned it. But I think as a society, and as parents, we should be more open to asking questions and more open to other people's experiences, which is why I love doing this with you guys, because all of our experiences have been very different, and we can share those and we can learn from those. And I think the more we ask questions, the more we share, the more we learn, and the less you get judgment, the less you get people putting you down for your parenting method or whatever, and just closed-mindedness.
Yeah, thanks.
It made me think about, I was having a conversation with a friend last night, and we talked about how being raised, I never really saw my parents come to me and say, look, I messed up, or come to me, or when I'd ask a question, they'd say, I don't know how I feel about this, or I don't know the answer to this. It was always, here's the answer, and if they didn't know the answer, it was because I said so. And we talked about that a little bit, I think, in the last episode, how I don't like the word because I said so. And I hope that, I know that there's been a big shift. I see with moms my age, or moms that I know, we talk a lot about how it's okay to say I messed up, or say I don't know, or ask these questions and show vulnerability, and show, that we want to continue learning, and that we are not the know-all, be-all, end-all to when parenthood comes along or adulthood comes along. And so I just think that's interesting. I think that's a step in the right direction, right, for our generation.
I agree. And not sure how to really articulate this. We probably mentioned this in either the intro or the episode 1 about how there's probably things that we experienced as a kid, and so our generation, a lot of I suppose we would all be in the millennial kind of bracket, but probably kids who, I should say adults who are having kids, people younger than us,
who are having kids,
right? They probably are in the same boat as us, where there was a certain, not necessarily all the time, but mentality that was prevalent when they were being raised, and they vehemently don't like it, so they want to change it or whatever. And that can be for good or bad with things, but I think you're right that there's a shift in, more people are trying to be more accepting and things like that. And I was also, when I was talking to my husband yesterday, I was also thinking about how there's this weird kind of dynamic right now where there's a lot of professions of loving everybody, but then there's also at the same time from the same group this air that you were kind of talking about, Jess, of like, I know the answers, don't judge me because I'm judging you.
Yes.
And it's really hard.
Oh, that's so hard for me.
Yeah.
When people are like, I cannot believe, like, how could this person judge someone? Like, they're sickos, they're horror. And I'm like, wait, hold on.
Right.
Hold on. Like,
yeah.
What's going on? Because I feel like you're being a bully to someone who is being a bully, sure. But the reason why you're bullying him is because he's being it's just this circle, and it's never going to end unless we all just kind of like humble ourselves a little bit. Yeah.
Right.
Chill. and say, okay, everyone's going to mess up.
And there's so many different ways to do everything, but specifically parenting, because this is a parenting podcast.
Yeah.
There are so many different ways. So many different ways to feed your child. And that's a huge thing right now. And I'm sure we'll talk about that in another episode. But there are so many ways to do every mode of parenting. And we all just need to relax, observe others, ask questions. And that's the way that you find what's best. I did so much research, not only in the 10 years of waiting to get pregnant and trying to get pregnant, but then once I was pregnant, I read so many books. I was doing so much research because I wanted to know all the different things out there. I wasn't necessarily searching for the right way to do it or the perfect way to do it or whatever, because I don't think there is a perfect way for anything. Keep your kid alive. I mean, that's the basic.
For sure.
But
no, and it's good to have opinions. Like, it's good to find your way, find what you like, find what you don't like, and then accept that is your personal experience, that's your journey, and other moms' journeys are going to be different, and that's beautiful, and that's right for them too.
Right. Well, thanks for your thoughts. I appreciate them.
So, what are your takes? Is it okay or is it not okay to ask your parents for advice?
That's a good question. I don't know. Brittany, why don't you give us your
I don't know if I'd say as far as it's okay or not okay. I think it's always okay for me to ask my mom for advice, but
but maybe a better question is, would you?
Would I? Yeah. That's a really good question. In fact, I've thought about that, and I feel comfortable enough asking her, but I feel unfortunately like she would say I don't know a lot, because I've asked her about some things, and maybe this is an answer because she's erring on the side of safety, like she doesn't want to offend, or she knows times have changed or whatever, like her own caution that she's saying this, but it really could be that she doesn't remember. She usually says, I don't know, that was like 30 years ago, what do I know? And I'm like, well, I don't know, maybe a lot. So I mean, but it's true, like there are different things. And like for example, today I was watching somebody talk about intuitive eating and how she's trying to teach her children about like not associating like getting dessert with finishing all your food or whatever. And I was thinking, well, yeah, what if I did that? What kind of conversation would I have with my parents? Because I think that's always a battle. I shouldn't say battle, like it might be a battle people have with their parents about how to handle food. And I've heard my mom say some things that I'm like, well, if I was following that wouldn't be very healthy thinking. And so, it's I definitely have thought to myself like, oh, she just thinks differently, but it's not necessarily her fault. Like what she's thinking is bad. It's just different than things that are taught back then, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think the time, I mean, I don't want to like be a millennial and invalidate anyone who was a parent more than, 5 or 10 years ago. But I feel like the time difference, especially within the last 30 years, like when I was a kid versus now, has changed so much. And my mother-in-law, like whenever she talks to me about what she did, you know, with my husband and his brothers or whatever, is just so different. I mean, she was talking to me about like not having a car seat or a stroller or something.
Like in our lifetime. That's so crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And she was like, oh, well, somebody gave me, like, with her third child, he just turned 30, somebody gave her, it was an infant car seat. They had car seats back in the 80s, but she didn't ever have an infant car seat. And so she said with her third child, somebody just gifted her like an infant car seat or something. And she was like, wow, this is awesome. And she like never had a stroller, because I was showing her the Graco travel system that we ended up getting. We had it on our registry at the time, but it was like infant car seat plus toddler seat, stroller combo, tons of different configurations. Like you could have it as a bassinet style or whatever, you know.
So sorry, I just want to interject because maybe we'll attach this. So I just want to know if you've used it. What do you love about it? Because you were telling me you were looking forward to it.
I love everything about it. I think it's awesome. I have taken walks with Jamie in the bassinet style because I love that he is strapped in, but he's not super strapped in, like as in a car seat, you know, constricted. So he can enjoy it a little bit better. And then when I just put the car seat on there, it's a lot slimmer so that you're not like, you know, bumping into things when you go places and whatever. So
that's exciting.
Yeah, fully endorse the Graco. I will have to look up the name. I think it's Click Connect or something like that. Anyways, so yeah, she was just talking about how amazing it was to have that item. And she's not really one to like go all out and, you know, spend money on things that they don't absolutely need. So yeah, I don't know, I feel like, and she has a lot to say about like products, but not a lot to say about like actual parenting philosophy. They were very hands off, so I don't think they've ever really offered me any kind of like parental advice as far as methods of parenting or teaching or anything like that.
Is that like because they want to be polite, or is it just because they're not like overbearing people?
I honestly think it's because they didn't do anything specific.
Oh yeah.
It was just kind of like, you know, I think that was really common in the 80s too. Like you just have your kids and then you put them outside, you know what I mean? Like I feel like that was a lot of my childhood anyway, but I had a non-traditional parenting experience growing up. So I can't really speak for the whole 80s generation.
Yeah. What about you?
I do go to my parents for advice, but I take it as just that. I also acknowledge that it's my job to do a lot of research and make choices. And if I feel like I'm conflicted, then I go to my parents. I believe they did a pretty good job of raising their kids and
a lot of them.
And so obviously there's things every parent could improve on, but you got to give them some credit for what they did. So for me, and I also believe that it's very situational. If you don't feel as though you have that relationship with your parents where you can go and you can get sound advice, then don't. That's not a requirement. But if there's someone that you feel you can confide in and that they can give you some good advice that would give you a good perspective on the topic, then yeah.
And I feel like parents in general who have parented someone from infancy to adulthood should have a good general idea of how to deal with certain situations. I don't think parenting has changed that much over the years. But like I was saying, I think last time my mother-in-law was in town, we were having a conversation about, it was when Jamie was first born. I said, you know, the doctor told us that he needs to wake during the day every 2 hours or 2 to 3 hours to eat. And then during the night, we, you know, let him sleep no more than 4 or 5 hours, I think it was, when he was brand new. And she was like, you know, not necessarily against it, but kind of like, well, that wasn't a thing when I had babies. So kind of invalidating a little bit, like, you know, it wasn't a thing back then. So why is it all of a sudden a thing now? Well, you know, science, we learn things, but, and a couple other things, like just kind of how to hold him, to like not, you know, crunch his neck, like you know, it's like a really big thing, suffocation, and to like not have his head like crunched up so that he would kind of, you know, suffocate whatever. And she's like, oh no, when I had babies, we held them however and let them sleep for however long. And if they were hungry, they ate. And if they weren't, they weren't. And so I think that was a lot. I don't know. It's different from now. I think everything is very like very particular now, which is also really stressful for moms. Yeah. And to have to like
this fear of like doing it all right, wrong.
Yeah, totally.
And I think it's just interesting. I don't like the phrases, well, we did this back in our day and our kids survived, or something like it's so complicated. It doesn't have to be so complicated. And my thoughts on that are, well, yeah, it does. It probably does. They're not just telling us to do this for no reason.
Right.
They're, like you said, there's evidence, there's science. We're learning a lot. And there's a lot of mysteries, quote mysteries, that they didn't know why these X, Y, and Z miscarriages were happening. They didn't know why babies were passing away in their sleep. And now we have better evidence as to or passing away in their car seat. It was just like, oh, they just stopped living.
Yep. It was just, and that's like, it's weird to me. SIDS, the name SIDS, sudden infant death syndrome, is common. I mean, every new mom should know about it, hopefully. But the name is just like, is bewildering to me. Sudden infant death. Like, they don't just die.
I always think of Moses and the plague, honestly. I was like, I won't even know when it's coming. Is the lamb's blood on my door? Like, what's the magic dance I need to do? Because it just seems like it's like we could be playing and then it's sudden, which, I mean, there's always unexplained things. That doesn't mean there isn't an explanation.
Right. Yeah. We just don't know what it is, but there has to be. And in a lot of cases, it is suffocation, which is why they have so many things to look out for now. But yeah, I think the name of that was a little deceptive to me. Like, it could happen at any moment. Yeah. Like, you could just be watching them and then all of a sudden they're dead. And it's like, I don't think so. Right. I mean, I don't have experience. I don't know anyone with an experience of that happening, but I don't think that's how it works.
Right. Yeah.
One thing really quick. I don't remember exactly what it is. I'm trying to look it up, but I remember when we were in the hospital, they came in and explained that they changed the name a little bit when I was in the hospital when they were explaining it to me.
Of SIDS?
Yeah. And it was more along the lines of there are factors that contribute to this. I don't remember what it's exactly called. So if you know, email us.
Death syndrome? I feel like I've heard that, but
maybe, but it wasn't. Yeah, maybe unexplained death syndrome. But they did explain that it's not just random. You know, there are trends that they're seeing. There are factors that contribute to this or can help. So that gave me some peace of mind, thinking, okay, it's not just I'm going to leave my child safely in his room and I'm going to come back and he's dead for no reason.
Yeah.
There are ways to help prevent that.
Well, something that we all use that really brings some peace of mind. At least does it bring peace of mind to you too?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is the owlet sock, and I feel like they've had different versions. The current one is a 2.0. Is that right? Yeah. So when you're hearing this, find out which is the latest version, of course. But one reason why I really like the owlet is because it gives me peace of mind. Sometimes I forget to turn it on, but at least I put it on, so I can at least think. Because I'm not saying that my anxiety may contribute or increase the chances of them passing away. That's obviously not correlated, but it's still good for the mom to have some comfort when there's factors out there that you can't know. Being stressed, which I'm the queen of being stressed. I mean, you guys might be tough competition. I'm not going to take that away from you, but I'm saying that, I understand that, but at least it can give me peace of mind so that I can calmly sleep through the night, so that the next day when I can take care of them, I can take care of them. But then also that it's annoyingly loud. Like, there's almost no way I could sleep through it. And I can sleep through a torrential storm, a train, like a lot of things. I can sleep through a lot of things. And so I'm just really glad that there's this device that can not only give me comfort, but that it's going to make sure to jolt me awake if there was a concern. Are there anything other than what I said that you guys like?
I will say that if anyone has not used the owlet, if they are pregnant or wanting to look into it for use, that there is some controversy with the sock. Some people say it gives you false readings. there are other reports of it like catching on fire. I have not had any of those experiences.
Never heard of fire.
You've not heard it catching on fire?
I never had that happen.
I'm sure that was like, if that happened the way that they said, I'm sure it was like a defective unit or something.
Right.
But it's not like commonly, it doesn't do that. But so do your research. Don't take our word for it, even though all three of us use them and have used them for, Brittany's been over a year now, year and a half almost.
Right. Well, I didn't start it until they were about
right.
5 months, but still it's been about a year.
Yeah. But I love using it. I think it's awesome. It does give me that peace of mind. Even if the readings are slightly off, or if it does give me false readings, I'd rather false readings than like have nothing, you know, and have something happen.
Yeah.
And we did have a couple of scares right in the beginning when Jamie was very first born. He had some kind of breathing issues, so he had lower oxygen levels and had the alarm go off a couple of times, which was really scary for me. But we would never have known that was happening because he didn't have very many visual signs of that. But it was tracking his heart rate and his blood oxygen level. And so we could see that it was below normal and then it was dipping, and we can address that. So I thought that was really cool about using it.
Yeah.
Same. Emma had a few scares as well. And it was always nice, not nice that he had scares, but rather nice knowing that it worked.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it was times when he was sick, or times when there was one time I walked in and he had pulled the blanket over his head. Mm-hmm. And so we took care of that right away. But it was just, also we use blankets, so judge me, but we do. He sleeps better with them. And I feel comfortable in that because we use the outlet sock, mm-hmm. and because we have a camera, and it's just nice. There are times when he was, when we transitioned him to his own room, where I'd wake up in the middle of the night and think, oh my gosh, is he okay? And I could pull my phone up and check his heart rate and check his breathing levels and think, okay, he's fine. I didn't have to go in, walk in his room, open his door, like put my hand on his back, wake him up. Mm-hmm. That was not an issue that I have had to deal with yet.
Yeah. So we love it.
Yeah. Something else that I wanted to mention about it, if you have this issue or you are considering getting it, and I don't know if Cody or Jess, if either of you dealt with this, but I remember telling you, Jess, about this, that the socks would come off their feet, and I don't know if it was, so we didn't start using it until they're 5 months because their feet were just little, like mm-hmm. they wouldn't stay on there. And even though,
which is so funny because the smallest size sock was too small for Jamie when he was born. We used it for like 2 weeks.
Fat feet too.
Yeah.
That was not an issue for us.
We read the weight or whatever it said on there to, for which sock to use, because there's 3 different sizes, and that by weight even they were, I don't remember what the first one is. I want to say 6 to 8 pounds. And even though they were born at 4.5, and then even when they were past 8 pounds,
6 to 10 pounds.
Is that what it
the
is?
Smallest, yeah, because he was almost 10 pounds when he was born.
Okay.
Jamie was.
Yeah. But even when they were quote unquote supposed to be in size 2, they still slipped off. So we still stayed in size 1. And so we found that when we would put a sock over it, it helped secure it a little bit better.
Yeah, we put him in like footy pajamas.
Yeah.
And it helps keep it on.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's something, of course, like Jess said, that's something that, even though we use it, don't just take our word for it. You can do your research, but as you're deciding what you want to do with your children and deciding whether you want to, like, for their comfort and their sleep, just remember that there's a lot of information. Times change, but not necessarily chimes, but information
mm-hmm.
is come to light.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're doing something different than your parents, then that doesn't make you wrong, and nor does it maybe make them wrong, just that it's okay that it's different as well. Like we were talking about at the beginning of this section, if you're asking questions, that's just you seeking to decrease ignorance and to become more informed. Also, this is sort of related, but I just saw it the other day and I thought it was good. It said, mistakes are proof that you're trying. So if you feel like you're making mistakes, give yourself some grace because it's proof that you're trying. Thanks for listening.